Oh, fuck, my cat's gonna strangle me to death with my headphones. Please.
Oh no.
Please, you're so small.
I'm so glad we have the cold open ready.
Easy editing.
Welcome to Bible Boys, a podcast where two ex-evangelical siblings and an ex-Catholic non-sibling watch Christian media and either praise or condemn it. I'm Aaron.
I'm Josh.
And I'm Michael.
This week, make sure to grab your horns and pitchforks for the 2019 documentary, Hail Satan! Before we get kicked out of the temple for our extreme views, please be sure to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, like and comment on our video, and follow us on Twitter at TheBibleBoys. Josh, I believe this episode is led by you.
Yeah, I'm very excited. This is one of my favorite documentaries. I watched this, I think, when it came out on Hulu, so it must have been 2019, and tried to have a very interesting conversation with my parents about the feelings I had about it. That did not go well at all. It just didn't go anywhere. But it brings up a very interesting point that Satanism is not at all what people think it is. And in fact, it's it is fully made by Christianity. It is just a response to Christianity. And the plot of this is just examining the satanic temple that exists in the United States, and it's more of like a political activism group. And kind of about this town that put up a Ten Commandments statue, which we'll talk a little bit more about, and the Satanism group said, oh, cool, if we can put up religious statues at City Hall, then I'll go ahead and we'll get our Baphomet statue up there. So our religious views are also seen here. And a lot of constitutional lawyers went, huh, yeah, they got a point. But I genuinely enjoy this podcast. This
Podcast is all right. You're really in it for the movies.
I like that it sounded like a breakup. I felt like I was just going to get a Dear John from my brother. I like this podcast, but this is it for me.
It's not me, it's you guys.
Rebranding as Bible Boys, so it can just be the two of our little chibi figures up there.
It's a lot easier rebranding. You just got to get a blue eraser. And then But what I found most interesting about this was the honesty of what Satanism was. Because the United States is kind of going through, as Michael put it, the second 80s. You've described it very well in that, because we got a fresh new satanic panic. A fresh new gay panic.
We never ended the first one. What do you mean fresh? Something has to end for a new... It's like all the talk of second wave of COVID, second wave. It's like, all right, if I'm in a tsunami and it's just carrying me further and further and further, I'm not like, gee, that second wave, huh?
I will say, though, it has been a resurgence, and we have to mention him, the man, the myth, the legend, the person who is younger than me, and that makes me very upset, Lil Nas X, with his video recently, re-sparked a lot of, Satan, oh no!
Oh, no. It did not start with him. I have an entire episode brewing about religious imagery and its connection with being accused of Satanism. This includes, Lady Gaga with Alejandro eating the rosary. This has to do with Madonna being in all of her. Yeah, like Madonna existing. This has to do with all sorts of, music. Like the comparison of music and Satanism goes back years. And let's not forget the actual satanic panic organization that exists, as I just finished a documentary about.
The Republican Party.
I mean, more or less, we're talking about QAnon, where their entire shtick is, here is this satanic cabal that eats babies in order to keep the world order and keep every, power structure in play. So, that's my quibble. It's not new. It's not a resurgence. I think Lil Nas and his video is kind of like the tip of the spear, right? Like, there's so much more in there. but this kind of like pierced into pop culture because it's also a #1 song. So you
I think
can't ignore it.
It's kind of like when someone mentions, like, sexism around my brother. Like, he's always thinking about it. He's always ready to fight it. He's always ready. He's got a rant ready. But when someone brings it up, that's again, like, there's no resurgence in Michael's feminism. It's just another conversation that was then brought up.
Wait until you get me started on queer rights, too. I won't shut up about that.
But I do think that this has brought a new conversation, not a new, the conversation's happening once more. Nothing new is being said. But I do think it's important for a lot of our listeners to understand what kind of our religious upbringing was with hearing Satanism. Because there was a belief given from our churches that, like, magic was real, Satan had real powers, that those who worship Satan got real powers and did real evil. It's kind of like a video game. Like, I think I saw someone on Twitter describe it as, like, literally Diablo. Like, people are like, there's this ever war against real angels and real devils going on around you. Okay, cool. I didn't know if you guys had any, like, experience, like, yeah.
Oh, if you want us to talk about our own experiences, I mean, I think, like, for myself, right, Satan as a personage is not really focused that heavily on in Catholicism, but demons are. You might know about, I mean, we might have talked about it in previous episodes, but, like, when I went on a mission trip once, and, like, the priest that was running it talked about how, like, he had a friend who was an exorcist and, like, saw someone's head, like, turn around, like in the movie. And, like, we are always encouraged at a young age to, you know, be wary of the power of evil beings. I mean, Satan is included in them, but at least in Catholicism, it's never really made physical as much as, like, Catholics. I think one way that Catholicism differs from evangelicalism is that the hatred is more self-directed, whereas evangelicals got smart and were like, we can take all this energy and put it elsewhere, and then we don't have to feel bad about it. Well, I mean, Michael, you could probably speak about whether or not that's true, but
I fucking love this because I'm just imagining the introvert-extrovert dichotomy just with hate. Catholics are a bunch of introverts. It's all me. And evangelicals are extroverts. It's all of you.
Catholics get their energy by hating themselves, and Protestants get their energy by hating others.
I mean, that is true for me personally, so you're not wrong. It's a good theory.
After a long day, Aaron's like, I just gotta sit down and really write a list about, like, what's wrong with myself.
That's just what happens during my 10-minute shower.
Just as Linkin Park plays in the background.
I've become so numb.
No, we have to move on. So Satanism popped up. This specifically covers the Satanic Temple, which was started, or the main spokesman for that, and the person we follow, is Lucian Greaves. I think I'm pronouncing that right.
Every single person in this documentary has a fucking awesome Dungeons & Dragons name.
Yeah, like the director, Penny Lane.
Amazing. The thing I love about him is so many people were like, we found his real name, Malcolm Jerry, and then, like, they go back to the, like, documentary, and he's like, that's not my real name. I've got, like, 5 pseudonyms.
Lucian is one of my favorite parts.
I actually think this gets to the heart about what an interesting conversation is around the Satanic Temple. But I think what we do need to do is start by saying the Satanic Temple is not the first of its kind.
Yes.
Because this documentary is specifically focused on it, and I think that's great. But there's also the Church of Satan, which is a separate organization. And we basically got to witness Satanism's Great Schism within our lifetimes.
I mean,
which is beautiful.
That does rule. Like, we're part of history. I think...
In case you're...
Oh, good.
Go ahead.
I was
just... In case...
Fuck.
Well, Michael, you've got to talk now.
Okay, it's me, tiebreaker.
Aaron and I have to sit in our corners until we decide.
That's right.
Go ahead, bud.
Okay, I'm just going to roll call Aaron first.
I the main distinction that I think that I read about between the Church of Satan and the Satanic Temple is that the Satanic Temple is more focused on activism, whereas the Church of Satan is more like just like a legit spiritual practice.
That does make sense because I that's what I loved about the Satanic Temple, because I was trying when I was describing this to my father 3 years ago, I was just saying it's atheists who want to hang out. And a lot of them like admit to this. And I want to, if you're curious about what like the Satanic Temple's big beliefs are, I have their tenets up. I'm just going to read those out real quick. There are 7. And it's: one should strive to act with compassion, empathy towards all creatures in accordance with reason. The struggle for justice is an ongoing and necessary pursuit that should prevail over laws and institutions. One's body is inviolable, subject to one's own will alone. The freedoms of others should be respected, including the freedom to offend. To willfully and unjustly encroach upon the freedoms of others is a forego of one's own. Belief should conform to one's best scientific understanding of the world. People are fallible, people make mistakes, and they should rectify them. And each tenet is a guiding principle designed to inspire nobility in action and thought. Yeah. Yeah. Like, pretty based.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're all right tenets. I really take issue with the including freedom to offend a bit, because I feel like if you make that explicit, people are going to abuse that tenet. But in general, I do think it's a pretty solid way to be like, hey, we are going to have our opposite of the Ten Commandments. We're going to make much more. We're not going to say like, thou shalt not worship. We're not going to list specific sins, but instead list specific, values and beliefs. And that is certainly, I feel, a good way to build a pseudo religion.
Well, and let's be real. The reason that they have the freedom to offend is like this religion exists to troll people. This is
They
literally,
say that, yeah.
yeah, like, I think that there was a review an interview I read. I think it was with, maybe it was with Lucian. I can't remember where this quote came from, but it is not my own, and I want to put that out into the ether, that it can be both satanic and satirical when talking about the Satanic Temple. And I mean, yeah, like you can be both. You can be a troll and then also an activist. Um, do I think it's the most effective form of activism? No. But I did find it kind of funny, some of the ways that they like specifically showed like almost absurdism as a way to counter activism and counter protest.
For me, the thing I enjoyed about this was anyone who was listening to what they were saying. They're saying, no, we believe in science. We don't actually believe there's a goat-headed figure in hell giving us magic. So the idea that, like, this is just, they're using imagery that they know Christians will link to evil and bad things just to annoy them, because they know Christians won't look past their own confirmation bias to actually look at what they want to get done. And I think that's really interesting and fun.
Yeah, and I like that you mentioned the magic thing because that's actually something that differentiates the Church of Satan and the Satanic Temple. The Church of Satan believes in magic in so much as it believes in rituals, and they use words like glamours, but like what they mean is actually charm and people skills. They view some skills and talents as not explainable by science, and in their definitions magical while not being supernatural. The Satanic Temple doesn't spend so much time on that. They are more interested in like the activism portion. The Church of Satan is more interested in like the hierarchical, like almost like religious structure. It to me feels very Catholic versus Protestant in their structuring, in how the Satanic Temple is very loosey goosey, like anyone can be a member. Church of Satan has an actual church hierarchy.
And I do want to point out that, like, Lucian fucking amazing at what he does. He is very pinpoint accurate. Like, he knows what he's about, and he goes about it in a very by the books and clean way. I disagree with like some of the things he did, but at the same time, I was like, this is a guy who is trying to look at the most. How do I get the most done with the power that I have? And you can kind of see that because there was an issue with the Detroit branch. In the very beginning of this, they talk about like a couple core members, and one of the women who I don't have her
Jex
name pulled up
Blackmore.
immediately. Oh my god, everyone's got such a cool name.
Fucking incredible name.
She started the Detroit branch, and there was some distance between them and some of the other ones, and then she called for the death of Donald Trump, and that got the Detroit branch separated because they're an anti-violence group. And I get your hands are kind of tied on that one.
Listen, I think that the excommunication of Jex Blackmore is such an interesting way to view revolutionary movements. This whole documentary kind of shows how a nascent revolutionary movement evolves and eventually becomes more, systematized, more structured, but also can sort of lose what makes revolutionary movements powerful, which is, their ability not to be located in a single area. And they talk about that, right? When Jex, calls for the execution of the president, which you just can't do. Like, none of us here love Donald Trump, but we would not call for his execution publicly because we're not idiots. And Jex...
I do love that you slipped in publicly. I loved that.
Listen,
not going to do it privately on the record.
I won't do that because I'm a good and patriotic American. Anyway,
God bless America.
That's right. Right, there's a whole thing to be said. I think there's a very interesting conversation to be had about the ways in which, like, Jex's criticism of the Satanic Temple is that, like, because they became a more formal nationalized structure, like they lost some of their edge, and like you see that in a lot of revolutionary movements, right? You see this. This is not, of course, an analogous message, but is the one that is most easily accessible to me, someone raised in the American education system. But like, you see it in Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, right? Right, we get the Martin Luther King story, but we don't ever learn about the Black Panther movement, who, were not afraid to use violence in order to achieve revolutionary goals. But, like, Martin Luther King, because he is the, more friendly version, is the one who got raised up, even though both of those men had a great deal to do with the civil rights movement. This is, of course, not necessarily... I don't want to compare the civil rights movement to what the Satanic Temple is doing at all, but that's just an example of revolutionary movements, and I think this is, on a much smaller scale, an interesting way to compare them.
I do want to say real quick, if you are curious about the Black Panther movement and some of the things that they did, I recommend looking up why California has such strict gun laws. You'll be disappointed in the nation.
You will not be surprised.
No.
It's racism.
It's always racism. It's always racism or Ronald Reagan or sometimes both.
It's with Ronald Reagan, it's hard to separate, right?
I talked last week about making a conspiracy theory board, and I'm going to connect everything back to Ronald Reagan. I am going to do that over the summer. All of our podcasts are coming back to Mr. Ronnie himself.
Oh, no.
I mean, I do that without the board, so...
I was very interested in it because it was very clear that he was trying to do the most with what the Satanic Temple can do, trying to get the most impact for it. And that does mean softening your edge, because, like, the more controversial you are, the less likely you're going to get some, like, the fact that it's even named the Satanic Temple, you're already losing a giant population of America. So many people are just going to be like, oh, I don't even want to, like, I don't want to look into that.
Well, yeah, like, every Christian is immediately going to shut down, and a lot of people brought up in Christian homes will shut it down, even if, like, in this case, it is not... calling it a religion indicates, like, a sort of spiritualism. This is not a spiritualist movement in any sense.
No, it's literally, how far can we push the ridiculousness of belief systems that you're still going to allow, like, that religion to be demonstrated. Like, the idea of putting the statue of the bad guy of most people's religious beliefs in the United States on the city council, like the land around it, is beautiful. That's a beautiful representation. I also want to get into why a lot of city halls have the Ten Commandment statues on them.
That fact blew me away.
Yes. It's such a good fact. I can't remember what the actual movie was called.
It's called The Ten Commandments, dog.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, I didn't want to say it wrong. It's that old-ass movie, The Ten Commandments, and it was a marketing scheme.
By Paramount Pictures. That
Yeah, so
literally
they would just...
sent it out, yeah.
They paid for them as a huge marketing scheme to make sure that the movie did well, and now it's become like a thing.
And so, can I go on a quick Cold War rant and talk about how, like, the Cold War just, like, really allowed America to make a lot of... I mean, I guess I'm going on the rant without even... I asked the question as a rhetorical one and started going.
I am a history major. I don't know if I cannot piggyback off of your rant, so this is going to be a long one, boys.
Well, I'm gonna keep it super brief, right? Like, the Ten Commandments came out in 1956. I think it's important to note that in this era, there were a lot of Hollywood movies around religion, and in particular around Christianity. And so that is an intentional thing because we were dealing with the Red Scare, and everything in the US at that time had to exist in equal but opposite contrast to the Soviet Union. They were an atheist, like, state-sponsored atheism society, so we had to print "In God We Trust" on our money. Like, it became a push-pull. So no wonder the Ten Commandments movie comes out in 1956, and then all of these Ten Commandment statues are sent out to these local courthouses that then put them up. And we act as if, America was, like, from the virgin birth itself. Like, we just sprung into existence this, fully formed Christian society that had, Bible verses in the Constitution and all of that, when none of that's actually true, right? Like, a lot of our religious imagery came up during the Cold War era.
This is also two quick facts. McCarthy was a little bitch. And the best comparison I've ever heard from him was he was a failing politician at the time. He was very unpopular within Congress. He was not this, like, big powerhouse that we think of. He was just a very loud individual. And no one on either side was a big fan of him. He just latched on to this very racist and discriminatory ideology in order to bump up his popularity. Ted Cruz.
Oh, I was literally... Yeah.
Yeah, he was the Ted Cruz of that time period. Also... Thomas Jefferson was challenged to examine the Bible in a more accurate way for what he believed in Christ, which is the idea of, like, the God made the watch and then stepped back. So he went through his Bible and removed with a knife every instance that God influenced, or, like, God did a miracle.
I mean, that spirit of deism is what ended up being in the Constitution, right? Like, that is why we have this whole documentary, is based upon a discussion of the First Amendment, specifically, the free exercise clause. But, like, we wouldn't have that problem if we didn't have a problem in the United States of ignoring the Establishment Clause, which is, like, the next one that's like, hey, maybe, like listen, we can practice religion, but don't put it in the government. And everyone was like, oh, sorry, you got us in the first half, and I left before the intervention ended, so I'm going to just run with it. And now that's what this whole documentary is. It is pushing people to pick either free exercise or establishment. You can't respect one and not the other, or if you do that, you're going to get a fucked up statue.
It's also pretty... Can we talk about the statue?
The statue's a good statue. I said fucked up, I meant cool.
It's really cool, and it reminded me of a lot of the Confederate statues that are everywhere in the South. Fun fact about those, they were just, a lot of the time, the same guy. They just had, like, think of, like, a catalog. You could, like, anyone who's made a D&D miniature, it was a lot like that, where they were like, we've got 5 faces, they can have a rifle, they can have a hat, and they were really shittily made, and they were really cheap, and they just made dozens and dozens and hundreds of them. But not the Satanic Temple. They put some real effort into this. It's a beautiful statue.
I want a friend in my life who hears, I want to make a 7-foot tall statue of Baphomet, and they go, are you serious? And when I say yes, they say, I'm clearing the next 6 months of my schedule. You need a ride or die like that in your life.
That's why we keep Michael around.
That's right.
That is some real me energy right there.
Michael has been described as all gas pedal, no brake. I've got some fun Baphomet facts.
Okay.
This is the deity that the Knights Templar were accused of worshipping.
That's fucking hilarious.
Of course they were, because why not?
Knights Templar was so dumb.
Oh.
Yeah, but that's when it really came into popularity, was around the First Crusade. Which is much older than a lot of satanic myths, I'm gonna add, because we talked about how the pentagram was developed as a satanic imagery mostly like after the Renaissance and quite a bit after it. A lot of also green was the color connected to Satan, and it wasn't switched until red until like the 1900s.
Really?
Yeah. They talk about like a green devil because of the connection to Pan.
Huh.
Well, it also makes sense because, like, if you think of very simple color theory, right? Green and red are complementary colors. They exist opposite of each other. If red is the blood of Christ, then of course green would be the color of the devil.
That's some seriously impressive color theory off of the fact that, like, I don't think you knew before
Yeah, you said of course, like that was a thing that every person was able to just pull out of their ass. We're not all you, Michael.
We're really digging in. We're both really digging in and complimenting my brother today.
I'm really giving, seeing as I just watched Legally Blonde for the 1,000th time, what, like it's hard energy on this podcast today.
But should I describe this statue? Because there's a lot going on with it.
Paint the word picture.
All right, so you've got, if anyone listening to this was into Greek mythology as a kid, because everyone who listens to this is gay. So it's Pan.
If you weren't beforehand, congratulations on coming out. You're gay now.
Yes. Welcome. You are a homosexual. It's Pan, but like with a much more pronounced goat head with 2 wings. He's holding up 2 fingers. There is a little boy and a little girl next to him. He has the hospital symbol on his tummy, and then an upside-down star behind him. And all of this is in bronze, and just, again, like, I want it in my yard. We don't have an HOA where we live, but the other side of town does, and I think, so bad I'd want to put this in an HOA house.
So here's the thing that I was very pleased to learn halfway through this documentary. So if they were first trying to put it up in Oklahoma, right? This statue, because they had the Ten Commandments statue, and because they got their lawyers together and like pushed the Oklahoma legislature, whatever, or the city council was like, okay, fine, we'll take down the Ten Commandments statue because we don't want this fucking devil statue here. And then they took it to Arkansas, where there was also a Ten Commandments statue. But that Ten Commandments statue got hit by a car because someone was like, yeah, I'm helping the fight.
He did not.
He did not. He made it worse. But, like, one of the groups that helped donate to rebuild that Ten Commandments statue was Pureflix, which longtime listeners will know, funded the God's Not Dead movies.
It's all connected, baby!
Well, and I don't know if you all caught the clips of Rosemary's Baby that were playing in this film, but we got a couple of crossovers.
There were a lot.
God.
They've got... I'm on the Wikipedia for the Satanic Temple in general. There are 5 holidays.
Oh, really?
One of them's coming up, yeah. Oh, I don't want to have to say these. They're very hard Latin words.
So needless to say, my brother's not satanic.
No, But this does a lot of work. I'm just going to list some of the things they've done. They've worked for, like, helping school systems fighting in-school prayer, student-led prayers. They have done, funny enough, adopt highway efforts.
They pick up trash with little pitchforks. It's so cute.
It's really cute. This one, I don't think it's too far, but I understand why people would. The pink mass.
The pink mass rules. I'm actually pro pink mass here. Fred Phelps has fucking stepped on so many people's toes. He absolutely deserves to get this shit.
Yeah.
So if you don't know, the Westboro Baptist Church is the real church of, if there is a real Satan, it's them. They're evil, bad people. You all know this. So the leader of that, Fred Phelps, very much dead, suck it, and is currently helping Prince Philip find a room down there. And they they held a pink mass, which was officiated by Greaves, which consisted of two men kissing over Jonathan's grave. Or Johnston's grave. Who's Johnston? I don't know Wikipedia. Help me out here.
So it was Catherine Johnston, the mother of Fred Phelps.
Yes. Is Fred Phelps still alive?
No, Fred Phelps is dead.
Oh, thank God.
Oh
my God, two gay guys kissed over his... Two gay guys kissed over his mom's grave. That's so much better.
Well, what's what they say in the documentary. They say, how do you fuck with Fred Phelps? You fuck with his mom.
Yeah. And, I mean, let's also, we can't ignore the fact that, you know, Lucian teabagged the actual headstone. That is something that also happened.
Good.
This was inspired by proxy baptisms, which is a thing that happens in some branches of Christianity, in particular the Mormon Church, in which you can be posthumously like baptized and taken into the religion. So they are intentionally satirizing that and saying, we are now making you homosexual. We are bringing you in, which is what I just did to all of you. So
congratulations, listeners.
Michael does actually walk around trying to convert people to gay. Just people he likes.
I mean, I'm everything that your conservative evangelical Christian parents were warning you about. I'm gay. I play D&D. I'm trying to convert everybody. I read tarot. I have crystals. I grow plants.
Tulsi was right.
This thing with the pink mass, though, I think is such a perfect distillation of like the whole purpose of the Church of Satan, because again, they're being like, you all are letting religious freedoms become so powerful that, like, if we just say this blatantly, offensive trolling act is a religious practice, and if our laws allow it, like, that's the whole purpose of our church, is to make fun and point out of that. And the fact that they're able to get away with it, suggests that, like, there is a need for more, of this work, until maybe the government realizes religious practices should maybe not have unlimited power.
The black mass and pink mass are two things that I think demonstrate exactly what the church is about. The pink mass is just pure trolling. It is pure offensive, in your face. This is everything we think you will hate. And the black mass was a scheduled event that was going to happen at Harvard. And it was relocated off of the campus because the Roman Catholic Archdiocese of Boston decided that this was real Satan, and he's
Aaron's
here
stretching right now. He's ready.
So me and Michael are probably going to hop on another phone call. It's going to be at least 30 to 45 minutes before we're ready to hop back on. Aaron, take it away.
It's not really. It's just like that whole fiasco is a perfect distillation of what is wrong with the Catholic Church. They saw something that was not going to be a big deal and decided to make it the biggest deal possible, and so shot themselves in the foot twice. Like, no one would have known. If the Catholic Church hadn't decided to call a fucking 8th Crusade up on this fucking these nobodies, they would probably be much less influential than they are now. But no, the fucking Archbishop was like, oh no, an opportunity to throw a weird parade for no reason at Harvard. Let's definitely do this. Call lots of media attention to our enemies. I mean, we've seen this in the past 6 years, right? Even though there's no such thing as bad press because it still attracts people to your cause. And the Catholic Church did that, and they still don't know how to not do that because they'll still be like, oh, a stupid thing is happening. Let's mobilize our entire political power to come down on a very small, not powerful group and make it so much more than it needs to be. And God, it just made me just laugh because, like, of course they did this. Of course they went and shot themselves in the knee because what the Catholics don't know how to do anything else from a structural level.
And it's shown as kind of a scary event. Like, it's freaky for the Satanists that went there because they moved the date like the day of, I believe, right? They moved the location the day of, and there were just a ton of very devout Catholics out there just ready to find Satan and beat him up, and a lot of those people were genuinely worried that there could be something that could happen to them.
Well,
And I
yeah.
think that's a backlash that it's easy to forget about as like three atheists, I think, because are agnostics, the lazy atheist, as we were
Atheish
told.
is what I like to be
Atheish.
called. Atheish.
An atheist, an agnostic, and a pagan. And Pan's got me, I'm not worried. And it just, like, it's easy to forget that people take this really fucking seriously. And this is just a goof, and it does not need to be taken that seriously.
Is it
But
easy to
boy, do they.
forget? Are we living in the same country? I never forget that people take this very seriously.
I,
Just for example, I watched the Lil Nas X video, and my immediate thought wasn't, man, people are going to be mad. It was, whew, I'm glad I came out as bisexual a year ago.
here's the
That
thing.
joke got my girlfriend to laugh in the background.
Great. Um, here's the thing: is that right? This is not. You can't just mobilize a gathering of religious people to intimidate a small group of people, and that's what it is. It's intimidation, right? And there is, of course, a very fraught history of privilege, right? I don't think you get to mobilize a whole black church to walk down the street and do rituals in Boston without some police being very upset, right? I don't think you can do this kind of mobilization with a Muslim group in the United States, right? It is the privilege of Christianity in particular to be able to say, this is something that our religion doesn't like, and the state is going to back us up on this if we mobilize our extremists and try to intimidate them out of doing a thing they want to do. And it sucks, and it's the whole reason that this church of the not the Satanic Temple is doing what they do, because without using the power of the state to fight back, they don't have anything else, because the state will absolutely not have any tolerance for people like, unfortunately, like Jess Blackmore, who, I'm she's probably lucky she's not in jail. Um, this that's the whole thing. I'm just viewing this as through the lens of, like, reactionary, or not reactionary, but revolutionary movements. Like, me and Michael were having this conversation earlier. Like, sometimes you need the power of the state in order to to achieve your aims, even if the state is bad. And this is one way in which I think that the Satanists are using it very effectively, despite the fact that they know full well that the laws that uphold their whole movement are bad.
Yeah, and I can't help but think about this right now, just given like everything that's going on. The the juxtaposition between how white Christians are treated versus, laws that are now popping up in Georgia banning souls to the polls. And it's like, so we love our political. I mean, I remember being in church in 2008 and there being pamphlets saying, here's what the candidates believe in, and little check marks next to McCain and little X marks next to Obama because he was bad and liked gay people and abortions. And I don't know. I just sometimes think like, okay, if a law cannot be justly enforced, then we should really look at what its enforcement is saying, right? And I don't know, this film has me thinking a lot about that. And all I could think of is like, oh yeah, like even amongst Christianity, you still have a very, very big difference in your right to practice and what that looks like, right?
I do think that this extremism, because it is a form of extremism. It's absurdism extremism, I would say, of just like get in your face, look how stupid and dumb this is, I'm going to be offensive. It's Reddit but used for good, and I think it does have a purpose. And I do think I came out at the end of the day and I was like, I don't think I'm going to spend the $25 to join, but I am so happy that they are fighting that fight. Like, I'm so happy that like a group has formed and is going out and saying, you know what, we're gonna push back. If you're gonna put a stupid statue of some laws that a guy grabbed from Jesus in a mountain, we're gonna put Baphomet up there with just hanging out with the boys. And I'm so here for that.
Yeah, I mean, they have cover to do so. I can't imagine the ACLU being like, here's our Baphomet statue.
And also it does allow, it's the D&D expression. Like, this is the tank. This is the cleric. Like, this is where the damage sponge, barbarian, and rage. Like, we don't have to worry, you know?
I love this idea of the Satanic Temple being like, I'm gonna draw aggro so the ACLU and the Black Lives Matter groups can do the real DPS.
Seriously, but like that's what has to happen, I think. These are the people that need to have big, outlandish court cases where Republicans are funneling money into it, and then we can maybe get people to actually vote in Georgia without being like attacked. I do want to talk a little bit about some of the rituals.
Yes,
Because
please.
I found them very interesting.
Do you all have a
Specifically,
favorite one? I feel like we should talk about our favorites.
I do have a favorite. And it's specifically from Detroit. And I love the idea because Detroit was the most offensive. It was scientifically offensive. And I loved that. Because they were like, we love to include nudity. Specifically, we only show male nudity, though. Because we feel like both female nudity is, like, become a bit of a sexist, like, only the women are naked. And also, the idea of, like, penises are seen less in these types of rituals, therefore it's more shocking. Loved that. Love that. That is so good that they're like, we are going to take this thing that's already extreme and dial it up one more.
I really liked where they talked about using wine in the rituals, specifically like choking on wine. Like they would like have people with like bags over their heads and they would like lift up the bags and then like pour wine on them and they would like choke on it because they said it was like a metaphor for oppression and control. And like, I don't necessarily think that metaphor fits one to one, but I do just like the whole idea of the subversion of Christian iconography and rituals. Like the rituals in this documentary, I thought were really interesting.
I love the idea of choking on Jesus' blood. Like, that, to me, is such a good metaphor.
That's
I
fair.
have a favorite, and mine I had to do some homework for because of who I am, and
You love homework.
I just assign myself homework 24/7. So this one's new. It's from August 2020. And the Satanic Temple announced a new ritual that was a religious abortion ritual that exempts the members from enduring, quote, medically unnecessary and unscientific abortion regulations when seeking to terminate their pregnancy. And this is basically members who choose to perform the rituals are not required to undergo mandatory waiting period, counseling, force viewing of sonograms, transvaginal ultrasounds, anything on that, because it technically violates their beliefs on body autonomy. And I
That's,
think that is neat. I think that is just a cute little workaround.
that's so good. That's like when I told my old manager for a job that I don't work at that I couldn't work on Sunday due to religious reasons because I was playing D&D those days. He can't ask what my religion is. That's so good. Oh man, what were your guys' overall feelings on what they're doing? Because I feel like that's a good way to kind of like the ending discussion. Like what big thoughts? Because for me personally, I think that this is a wonderful protest activism and lobbying group, but more importantly, it covers the bases that I look for in a good religion, and that being taking care of membership, creating a place of community and to a point fellowship of like celebrating something, while also fighting to make the world better. I think that the rituals are goofy, and I don't like, they're not for me. I'm not a ritual guy. I was raised Protestant. Um, Catholicism and your goofy little practices. But I'm just so happy that these people exist in the world and are doing just a wacky shit. And I love that there's a difference between them and the Church of Satan, where this is specifically a like activism main focus group. I'm very positive on these people.
Yeah, I think like so in contrast to you, I like the rituals. I like I had mentioned in a couple podcasts earlier. I was like I do kind of miss the ritual of Catholicism. I do miss mostly the singing, but also just like the practice of having, going through weird rituals and physically doing things that reaffirm your beliefs. There is a part of that that I think is powerful, even if I don't believe in that stuff. I think some of the stuff we saw here is a little much. And I personally wouldn't join the Satanic Temple. I wouldn't go to their black masses, but I do think as an activist group, as long as the supremacy of evangelicalism and Christianity in general still dominates America, we need groups like these to take stands and to exploit our weirdly pro Christianity laws until we see genuine reforms. So I'm grateful for these people to fight these weird, absurd fights. Um, you know, I'm pro Satanist, I guess.
So I am almost less interested in the actual Satanic Temple and Church of Satan myself, and more interested in the humans behind it. So I find Lucian totally a fascinating person. So I did a little bit of digging. So he studied neuroscience with a
Oh
specialty
shit.
in false memory syndrome, which is all about like what happens when you go to recovered memory therapy, which if all of you know, like I was obsessing over, that book Michelle Remembers, which is all about that. So this guy does have like this very, very, very interesting background, and I'd love to sit down with him and just talk to him about Lucian the person almost outside of Satanism, right? Like I'm interested in what causes someone to go, I'm going to pick a fight with mainline American Christianity and sometimes win. That to me is fascinating. I even find the split between the religions very interesting. Penny Lane actually said a really great quote about this, that she initially thought the Satanic Temple was conceived as a prank, and then she said they have gone from being kind of a joke to being a real thing. The notion of a religious movement being born out of a joke seemed like kind of a cool story and not one I've heard before. She also said she loved the idea of watching a new religion get born right before her eyes and how goofy and weird that looks, especially if you're not part of it. And I agree with her. I guess that's all to say, like, my opinion on Satanism in general is kind of my opinion on all religions, in that you can be a great organizing force for good, but also a radicalizing, extreme, self perpetuating echo chamber. I think both of those things are possible. So I'm kind of neutral on Satanism in so much as I'm just kind of neutral on religion. Like it's one thing that can be good, it can be bad. It is so determinate on the people in there and what the structures are based on.
I would love to interview somebody who is like deep into Satanism. I'd probably be more interested in interviewing somebody from the Church of Satan instead of the Satanic Temple, just because I want to hear. That one seems to be a bit more of a religion, where this one's lowercase religion.
Oh, they
That
would be
makes sense.
so mad at you for that.
I know. It's kind of like, I don't know, the Satanic Temple feels like the Unitarians.
They do feel very Unitarians.
Yeah, I love you, Universalist Unitarians. Y'all awesome. Y'all lowercase religion. And that's a compliment.
What does the Bible say about that? Where 3 or more faithful gather?
That's us, baby. That's us.
This podcast is now protected by federal law.
We're a religion. I
Don't
baptize
touch our
you
taxes.
all as gay.
Honestly, we could start a killer religion.
Michael's
That's
very
why,
charismatic.
honestly-
Michael would be a perfect face.
Yeah, and like Aaron, we could get you some good rituals, some good songs in there. We don't have to pay taxes. That's why I'm excited. Like, there's a lot of really good.
Hello, Mr. I'm getting my master's in history. You could write a great religious document based on all of history and all the things that you've learned around there. I have no doubt about that. Aaron handles the
I
rules and rituals, and I talk to people.
I almost minored in religious studies, and the only reason I didn't is because I didn't want to fill out paperwork. I'd have all of the credits required. I did a lot of religious studies while I was in college. So yeah, I could really make a solid argument of, honestly, should we just do this? Like, this idea sounded better.
You brought this up so many times, Josh. It's sounding like it's not a goof.
Yeah. We moved past the goof territory.
It's a goof if it's a no.
Much like the Satanic Temple, our religion is going to be founded upon a joke.
Yeah, it's a goof if it's a no, but if it's I feel like it's a hard maybe from both of you right now.
We'll see.
I like leaving you guessing.
Michael, I know you. I know if I put any work into this, if I move the ball half an inch, you'd be like, well, this is perfect. This is what I was waiting for. And then you could leave the church and write a tell-all book. That's your dream.
How many tell-alls am I gonna write?
You have a lot to tell.
True. So I guess we
Alrighty,
should
boys.
probably review this, right?
Yeah, we definitely do need to review it. I'm gonna give it one Abaddon leading the armies of hell.
I'm going to give it a Jesus is stripped of his garments for reasons that Josh previously outlined.
Penis.
I am going to give this one. I'm going to kill both of you with this one.
One Ronald Reagan.
I am going to give this one 4 out of 5 adult infants.
Oh my god, we didn't even talk about the babies!
We almost made it without discussing the adult infants.
Oh.
Well, we did bring up Ronald Reagan, so we did cover some of them.
There we go. God. Well, gentlemen, when we're not trashing former dead terrible presidents, where can people find you on the internet?
I am at Green History on Twitter, and I am the older of the pair on 2 Days Younger. We just released a new baseball podcast called Pitching and Moaning, and if it gets 20 views in the first 2 weeks, I will be forced to buy some Phillies merch, which I'm not excited about. And if I say anything more about baseball, Michael will not edit this in.
I won't edit it out, but I did catch myself falling asleep. But if you want to see what I'm doing when I can't sleep, you can follow me at Twitter at Michael's Diamonds.
You can follow me on Twitter at AaronSXL. You can listen to the other podcast I do with my friend Layla at Mortified Pod. We just recorded an episode about the Haikyuu stage play, except our translation only had Italian subtitles, so that'll be an interesting one.
Do you guys want to take a second? Just because I think I want to at the very least, and just say thank you for everyone who's listened to the podcast. We've gone over a year. I appreciate this opportunity to talk to both of you every week. It's been a highlight. I love this podcast. It's very dumb. And everyone who's listened, we get like a very consistent amount of viewers every week, and that just warms my heart. I love all of you guys, and our flock groweth every week. And I just love this. Thank you all.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up, Josh. Yeah, this podcast is a year old. I genuinely didn't know that we'd be doing it this long. I'm really happy. It's been a highlight of my week to talk with you guys. Yeah, it's been a lot. It's gotten me through 2020, and we'll see where it gets us in the future. Especially if we do end up making a church, listeners. If you want in on this, listen. All you have to do is keep telling your friends about us, and maybe we can help get you out of your taxes.
I mean, I just really appreciate that so many of you want to live deliciously with us.
Well, as I wipe the tears from my eyes, out of all your support has brought tears to my eyes. That's why I'm wiping my eyes. I would just like to remind you all that it is okay to cry because even Jesus wept. We'll see you all next time.